We are going to take a pause in the schedule for a moment to welcome Representative Josh Gottheimer, Democrat of New Jersey, who has joined us and has a limited window between votes as a friend from the New York area, and we're happy that that he is here. I'll take a point of personal privilege in that he was a Senate page, so he crossed to his old home on the side. I know that because my son was also a Senate page, and we bonded over that fact. So thank you for being here, and we welcome you to the podium.
It's like a perfect Jewish height here. Thanks. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. Richard and Herb, thank you so much. And all the AZM officers and members, I'm honored to be here. Also, my friend Annie Borens is here, who I saw a minute ago, who was an early mentor of mine and the executive director of the API Foundation, of which I was on before getting elected to Congress. And it is really a treat to have the few minutes with you. Leaders in the Jewish community, and as a Jewish member of Congress, it always is good to be around friendly faces and those who are also strong supporters of Israel. So thank you for the time. I was on the phone yesterday. We had a conference call with superintendents, and you're just building on the topic you just brought, that you were talking about, with superintendents from across my district, because we've had another series of swastikas in our schools. In fact, one of the schools, multiple incidents, 3 or 4 in the last couple of weeks in just one school. And this is after this summer, on my campaign, there were swastikas drawn on one of my supporters' homes, on their garage, spray painted on their garage. Not Jewish people, just people who were standing by someone who was Jewish. So I think it's a moment. It's a very heavy moment for the Jewish community, and those of us who really believe we have to stand strong now more than ever. Which is why I'm lucky to have allies like Senator Chuck Schumer, who I know was here just before me, and my friend and mentor Elliot Engel, who I hope spent a few minutes with you, and who's terrific. And yes, I'll applaud for him. And Ed Royce has been a good friend, and Ted, I know, is with you, and Ted Deutsch, and Lee Zeldin, I think, was with you, and he's also been a terrific ally, and so many others that have been such good friends. And Jason Greenblatt is not only the President's Special Representative for International Negotiations, but he is my constituent in Teaneck, New Jersey. So, that's most important. This year was a very momentous one for Israel and for the United States. For more than 70 years, the United States and the State of Israel have fostered and strengthened a remarkable relationship. This alliance, rooted deeply in our shared values of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law, has clearly developed into one of the most extraordinary partnerships in the modern world. I've always believed, like I know you do, that the bond between the United States and Israel is and must always be unbreakable. Unfortunately, we've seen that Israel is increasingly vilified in the world stage and used for political and partisan gamesmanship here at home. Like you, I refuse to accept that. I think it's more important than ever that members of both parties, Democrats and Republicans, remember that Israel's strength and strategic importance to our country is first, right? When I meet anyone, I say first and foremost, of course, we've got to stand by Israel, but Israel's success is essential to our success, right? It is our vital ally, and to our security in the region, right? And it cannot and must not be a partisan issue. And I think you being here, coming to Washington, right, really puts a point on this, that when you talk to any members of Congress, I think what's so important to explain to them is this is not partisan. And I know some want to make it partisan, right? They want to turn it into a partisan football. Like in this town, everything else they try to turn into a partisan football. Right? I co-chair a group called the Problem Solvers Caucus. It's a bipartisan group, half Democrats, half Republicans, right? You can't believe the grief I get because I try to talk to people on both sides of the aisle. And the problem is that issues like these, they do their best to try to turn them into them. That's why I've refused, since I'm in Congress, to ever sign a partisan one-sided bill or letter when it comes to Israel. Refuse. My own colleagues in my own party go to the press and say negative things about it when I do. You know, I've worked across the aisle to support bilateral missile defense cooperation, crack down on terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah, which I know you've addressed over the years successfully, combat the hateful boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement that I know is another topic that we talk about and should, BDS, tied closely with anti-Semitic activity at home and around the world. And we need to do everything to preserve our ally Israel's qualitative military edge in the region. And you know, we're considering legislation to pass the U.S. Israel Security Assistance Authorization Act. I never call these things by their long names. I know them only in their shorthand, like MOU, but yes, they have full names. AZM's efforts to inculcate strong support for Israel across all backgrounds, from Reform Zionists to ZOA and everything in between, demonstrates to me, and I hope to everyone, your ongoing commitment to strengthen this historic bipartisan relationship between our two countries. And the achievements of this relationship speak for themselves. The counterterrorism cooperation between the U.S. and Israel has saved countless lives here in America and around the world. Israeli technologies protect American troops stationed in the Middle East. And our relationship has given rise to a thriving, independent state of Israel with America's embassy in its eternal capital, Jerusalem, which I supported strongly. But now more than ever, with insurgents in both parties spreading ideological-driven misinformation, we need to make the case even stronger. We need you to make the case even stronger. A strategic case, to be sure, the case for America's national security and our own interests, but a moral case, too, based on the values that we hold dear and that form the basis of the American Zionist movement. And that's why I'll conclude by recalling on Sabbath Eve, May 14th, 1948, when David Ben-Gurion and members of the provisional government stood beneath the portrait of Mr. Herzl to read aloud and sign the Declaration of Independence of the modern state of Israel. Just before they signed their names, they made an appeal, quoting them, to the Jewish people throughout the diaspora to rally around the Jews of the land of Israel and the tasks of immigration and upbuilding, and to stand by them in the great struggle for the realization of the age-old dream, the redemption of Israel. Today, we have an obligation to help realize the same dream. It is the dream of Jewish families the world over, who scrape together spare coins to fill Jewish National Fund tzedakah boxes. The dream of survivors of the Shoah in Europe and their descendants for an eternal homeland, for a people who had lived through centuries of persecution. The dream of families gathered at Seder tables in New Jersey and in the many places we live in this room and across this great country, sang in unison next year in Jerusalem. So with that, I just want to thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your work, for all you do. I know it's not always easy. I feel it too. So you've got a friend here. Let us never shy away from the vital task of standing up for our ally Israel and strengthening the enduring U.S.-Israel relationship. Thank you, and God bless you. Whoops, sorry.